I don't get it. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 75 of the Shower Podcast, the podcast where I'm in my shower and you do you. I'm your host, Chip, and outside it's raining, it's gray, and I had no intention of bringing up this argument and making this day even worse, but yet here we are. The argument is connected to a piece of data that I found out about this weekend, where I was strengthening and deepening my, let's say, overall knowledge and, let's say, in general, my approach to investment. Yeah, I think it's investing, the right one. Mostly because, let's say, beyond the basics that I already had, I'm actively looking to see if I can do a bit more and dedicate a bit more time and effort to this practice, given that fortunately I am in a space of stability right now. So I can afford a bit more risk, even if it's nothing crazy. But again, I want to see what are my options and, let's say, expand a bit my knowledge. And while I was searching this, I found out, as I was saying, this piece of data that absolutely shocked me and brought me to the argument of today. What do you think it's the average percentage that Americans save on a monthly basis, given, their amount of expenses, income? It just baffled me. It's first of all, it's a single digit and it's below 5%. It's actually 4% of their income is saved. Now, first of all, it at this point doesn't even make sense to save that amount, because it's so irrelevant and ridiculous that, it leaves me speechless. So I started thinking about this and tried to expand a bit this idea. How is it possible that some people are able to live like that? Let me expand. So when, you have whatever amount of money that you're receiving, be it a freelancer, you have a stable job, you have a business, whatever. Let's say that you, first of all, have to take care of the basic things. So housing, food, insurance, or whatever. So those things, when I think about it, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. It's something that you cannot really avoid. And in general, given the whole situation, prices are going up overall. And it's definitely harder to save money. So, that I can understand. But then comes the tricky part. Let's say that for simplicity, that 50% of your monthly budget is gone. And again, it covers the things that I already mentioned. Going forward, you can, let's say, split your rest of the money in two ways. Either, let's say, a part of it you save and a part of it you use as cash, let's say. So money that you can use on a daily basis if you want to go out, if you want to buy something on the moment, whatever. Okay. Let's ignore the fact that before you start, let's say, looking to spend this money to get things, you should put aside like a pretty good amount in case of any emergency, 3 to 6 months, depending on the state that you're in. Let's ignore that part. Let's say that you are confident that everything is going to be fine and you want to, let's say, split the rest of the budget in a certain way. How can you, from 50%, arrive at saying, 4% is okay? It's so crazy to me, and I genuinely, it's one of the things that mostly fascinates me and puts me also, in trouble when meeting new people. Because if I meet somebody that is around, let's say, my area of interest, or people that I trust more or less, or they're friends of friends, usually it happens that, we share a lot of good practices, we share a lot of ideas, on how life should be. And in these situations, it's more of a matter of how you vibe with the person, if you like it, if you don't like it. And based on that, it can be a good friendship or not. It can be just circumstantial. So in these situations, it's more a matter of preference. When you are, though, in an environment where you have absolutely no connection to the people that you have in front of you, and you start talking to them, and the more you interact with this person, the more you don't know where to start, because the foundational basis and the statements that one puts forward are so absurd in both directions, and that's the crazy part, that it's fascinating to listen to that and try to get an impression from something that you just blatantly cannot understand. Now, again, I don't want to come, from a place of superiority or whatever. Far from me to mean that. But I, let's say, try, and I generally believe that all my choices are based on a certain practice or method that I have in mind. So I try to do my research. I try to understand what I think works best for me and then act upon that. These people are just doing stuff. There's no foundation. There's no decision. It's just a thing that, we'll see. And this, to me, again, I think I've said it so many times during this episode, but I find it fascinating that there are situations and there are, let's say, people that even though they live in a similar environment, and what I mean by that is they have a job, they have expenses, and they live a normal life. So I'm excluding all the very complicated situations that one can live if the income is not enough, or if you live in places of this earth where the situation is not pleasant. We're completely excluding that because, again, you don't live on the same rules. Or the super mega rich people that, again, they live in a parallel world. Again, there's nothing that you can share with them because, again, the way that they grew, the way that they see things, the way that they interact with things, it's just so different that, again, you are in the position where you cannot understand them and vice versa. But when you are more or less in the same space, finding these differences is actually crazy. Because you, at least for myself, but I ask, am I actually in the right? Am I not seeing something? And again, most of the times, the answer that I give myself is not really, because even though I'm interested to understand what's your position and, let's say, how you ended up doing the things that you do, if you tell me just because, well, you absolutely lost my interest because I'm like, okay, there's nothing to gain here. And something that I try to do on a pretty regular basis, and let's say I've done it recently. Again, if you listen to other episodes, let's say that I'm not a huge fan of Mr. Musk and all the things that are happening around him. Even though, let's say, I don't know, 10 years ago or more or less, when, Tesla was at the beginning of it, and in general, his persona was, I was also much younger, but I saw him as somebody, to look up to. And with time, things have changed and I've, let's say, evolved into my current position. And he recently was host again of the Joe Rogan podcast. That also was one of my staples. And recently, not so much. At least if he has to invite people that are just for fun there, sure. If it gets political, he loses me because, and what I was just saying before, I hear certain things and I see that the foundation upon which these things are constructed are either false, just false. They don't apply to the situation that they are describing. So they're telling you something, but the basis upon which they are building that argument is not valid, or it's just misleading. But there is a third part, and it's the one that I actually try to work upon, is where even though I don't agree with you, and even though I don't have much to share and have in common with you, given the position that you have, I still try to listen to the other narrative. Now, again, for simplicity, this is just a matter of dividing the topics into two categories. There's let's say, I wouldn't say right and wrong, but what you believe in and what he believes in. These things usually are very different. And this is unfortunately the case in the other continent. Listen and pose an argument and try to say, okay, is there any way that this is true? Is there any way that the things that they are claiming and the things they are attacking are, let's say, factual? But then, let's say there is the summary of everything, and what my current position still is that even though some of the things that they say make sense, and some of the things that they say could be actually true, given the basis upon which these things are made, and given the motives that these people have to do those things, even if it's really true, because again, nobody's perfect and nobody's saint. Like, there is no part that doesn't see just their personal interests. I mean, at least that's, again, my perception. Maybe down the line, there's going to be a fabulous, president that is going to fix it all. But until then, everybody, tries to get a piece of the cake and bring it home. And I'm okay with that because I can't do much against that. It's let's say, part of the job, I guess, because you have to keep happy the people that are around you. But there is still the how you do it. What are you compromising? What are the things that you are requiring your so-called opponents to do when you do that? If it's something that doesn't align or is just so far from the way that I see things, I'll have to reply with just, I don't get it. Because as I said throughout the episode, it's so far from my way of seeing things that I just can't agree on it. So all of this to say that the moment that you see something that you don't like, don't discard it immediately. Force yourself to understand more about it. And even if you agree or do not agree with that statement, that is not important. Try to see how it aligns with the things that you require in order to take into consideration that information. Because some information, like information by itself, to me, it's pointless. There needs to be a context upon which that information lives. And unfortunately, all too often nowadays, I just see information that sits there and the context is hidden because then the information has much more power. When if you bring, let's say, context into the discussion, well, things tend to change quite a lot. I don't want to get it too long. It was, again, more of a personal sharing. Let me know if you have any even more, let's say, normal topics or things that you think are much more funny. Like, do you put first the cereal or the milk? Also, this can be a thing that I don't get it. Personally, I put first the cereal and then the milk. Thank you very, very, very much for listening. This was episode 75 of the Shower Podcast, and see you at the next one.